Hello. It's Nia and Trent from the Trident Network's Tournament Podcast.
We just wanted to pop in and tell you about the Tourney Pod, where each week we pit different pieces of pop culture against each other in a March Madness-style tournament.
We try to cover everything, from movies to TV shows to music to random stuff, like our hotly contested Best Pasta Shape bracket.
You can listen to the Tournament Podcast and all other Trident Network shows wherever you get your podcasts.
We hope you'll become an attorney at Pod soon enough, and remember, may the thing with the most votes win.
It's time to take your oath. Do you, warrior eagle, agree to only use your power for good, to fight for peace and freedom, and to uphold the superhero credo of truth, justice, and integrity?
Dad, I have to tell you something.
Scott, you're supposed to say, I do. I do.
I do.
Or does he?
Does that mean we're married now?
Kind of sounds like it. Hey, Val.
Hey, Al.
Welcome to D-Commentaries.
Thank you. Welcome to you and welcome to all of our listeners. Today, we're talking about Up, Up, and Away. Oh, what a fun romp.
That's me flying.
You're a great flyer.
Thank you.
You're very elegant when you fly.
I sound like one of those plants from Harry Potter.
The mandrake?
Yeah. Already off topic. All right,
perfect. Up, Up, and Away was released January 2nd, 2000.
Yay!
We have officially exited the 90s.
We made it to the millennia.
Yep. We'll miss you, 90s. And for our first installment, we have direction and starring being done by Robert Townsend. That's right. He directed and was Bronze Eagle or Dad.
Yeah.
This DCOM was written by Dan Berenson, and he has a DCOM resume a mile long. I mean,
he sounds familiar.
Yeah, he wrote Scream Team, Twitches 1 and 2, Eddie's $1 Million Cook-Off, Stuck in the Suburbs, Halloween Town High, Cheetah Girls, Camp Rock 2, Teen Beach 2, and more.
We love him.
Yeah, we love Dan Berenson. The cast is a pretty big cast. Michael J. Pagan was Scott Marshall, or Warrior Eagle. As I said before, Robert Townsend plays Jim Marshall, aka Bronze Eagle. Alex Datcher plays Judy Marshall, aka Warrior Woman or Mom. Sherman Hemsley plays Edward Marshall, or the Steel Condor, and you will likely recognize him. If you're younger, you might just know his face and not know what he's from, but he's very famous for being the star of The Jeffersons, which was a spinoff from All in the Family. So two very famous 70s shows that he was on. Kassan Butcher plays Adam Marshall, or Silver Charge. He's the older brother. Ariel Davis plays Molly Marshall, who's the youngest sister, Laser Eyes. Kevin Connolly plays Malcolm, the snot-nosed bad guy. You'll recognize him probably from Entourage or possibly from The Notebook.
Or he's just not that into you.
Yeah, he's been around. I mean, he's been in a lot of stuff, but he's probably most well-known for Entourage. Yeah. Olivia Burnett plays Nina, who's his unwilling co-conspirator. Chris Marquette plays Randy, the funny best friend. Jamie Renee Smith plays Amy, the love interest. Joan Pringle plays Doris Marshall, who I believe is Grandma. Nancy Sorrell plays Amy's mom. And Benita Ha plays Miss Parker, their teacher.
Yeah, she was great.
Yeah, this is a good cast.
Yeah.
I liked them. The synopsis is as follows. The Marshalls look like a typical suburban family, but under that ordinary-looking exterior, they are all superheroes. Each member of the family has their own secret identity and superhuman power. The youngest member of the family, Scott,
That's incorrect.
is worried. He doesn't seem to be exhibiting any extraordinary ability yet. He doesn't want to let his family down, so he's really worried. And pretends to have superhuman powers too. Who wrote this synopsis? I don't know who wrote this, but it's bad.
Yeah, and it takes out actually what the entire plot is.
Yeah.
Doesn't mention that at all. I mean, it mentions like a subplot.
Right. Like it mentions sort of the underlying like motivation of the main character, but it doesn't mention the mind control thing at all.
Right.
Well, anyway, now that we've gotten past the niceties, Al, what were your first impressions? What did you think?
Thanks, Val. I didn't hate this movie. I didn't hate it. I thought it's cute. I think it's just a little like corny and campy, but I think it's really fun. I'm going to go ahead and I wanted to give it a 7. I don't think it really deserves a 7. So I'm going to give it a 6. I thought it was fun. There was a lot of just like general dialogue that I really enjoyed. I thought that the costumes were great. I liked that it was only an hour and 17 minutes. I don't know. I thought it was fun. Does it deserve an Oscar? No, but I thought the plot behind it, I think is a good idea.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I liked this movie. So I hadn't seen this probably since I saw it, when it came out. So it's been 20 years.
Yeah. I was in first grade when this came out.
Wow. I was in either 7th or 8th grade. So I was like exactly the same age as them.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
Yeah. And I remember liking it. Like, I don't remember having like a strong feeling either way, but it wasn't one that I like resonated with really, really strongly, which actually is kind of interesting to me because there's literally a tomboy who plays soccer in this movie. Who's like a prominent character. So I'm surprised I didn't like gravitate to it more, but I think I just like forgot about it. Like I just forgot it existed, and it doesn't like come up the way that like some of the other ones do as like recommendations on Disney Plus. So like when I was doing that initial rewatch last year, it just never popped up as like, oh, you should watch this.
Right.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought that the concept behind the story is like an interesting one and not like crazy. Like at one point I literally wrote, is this Facebook? And I liked the relationships between all the characters. Like I thought they felt really real. I really liked Grandpa / Steel Condor. I thought he was very funny. They utilized him well, given that he's the most famous and probably the best actor in the movie.
Yeah.
And I thought that Kevin Connolly was just having a lot of fun being this just complete tool bag. So that was cool. Yeah, I agree. It was very campy, but they like leaned into it. They weren't like trying to pretend like it wasn't silly. So that was good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I also really liked his best friend.
Oh,
Randy.
yeah, Randy.
I thought Randy was so fun.
Yes, he was great. He was perfect best friend material.
Yeah. I just like how I feel like this was kind of similar to like Halloween Town in that they made the world feel very real.
Yeah.
That it was just something they accepted that there's superheroes. It's not weird. It's not crazy. It's just like, this is the world we live in. And it was really cool. I really liked how it didn't feel like a fake world that we were living in.
Totally.
In that aspect, yeah.
It was like The Incredibles. Like it felt kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, where like people just know there are superheroes and they like live a normal life when they're not doing their superhero thing, and all the silly superheroes with all their silly outfits. Like all of that felt a lot like The Incredibles to me.
Yeah, I wrote my third note is feels like The Incredibles, which is the exact words that just came out of your mouth.
Yep.
And Incredibles came out after this. So basically, Disney stole the Incredibles plot from Up, and Away.
Must be. Al, did you have any like favorite quotes or moments?
Yeah, some favorite quotes I had where we had Spider-Man and Mary Jane over for dinner. And then I loved that introducing of all of the actual, like, the superheroes we know.
Yeah.
We had Flame Guy, Rocket Man, and Jello Girl.
Yep.
I need to know what Jello Girl does. I don't know. I don't write down the context when I'm writing down my quotes, but really weird because it would be a backbone transplant. I think it was like an insult.
Yeah. So Scott is like, I think I'm just going to ask Amy to the dance. And he was like, weird, because that would require a backbone implant.
Yes. So funny. I love the adult minds are impossible to control because we're living in that.
Yep.
Casually. Yeah. I mean, I don't really have like too many notes, but those are, my favorite quotes. Did you have any favorite quotes or moments?
Yeah, I had a couple. Right out of the gate, Randy goes, "Your family is totally whack," which I just thought was so funny.
Yeah.
And then he like almost immediately after that says, "You should try punching her in the arm and running away. I hear girls really like that kind of thing." And then it's not one that you would read back because it doesn't have meaning without the context, but like the whole exchange between the two parents when they're at the bank heist and they're like having this domestic conversation while they're like beating the crap out of these criminals is amazing. Like I thought that was so well executed and so funny. And I feel like I've seen like echoes of that in other movies and shows since.
Yeah.
And I'm like, was this the first time that anyone ever did something like that? Because it's so funny and creative.
Yeah. So this isn't really spoiler because it happens within the first 10 minutes, but there's a bank heist and the bad guys are trying to get away in a van, but then mom and dad superhero are stopping the bad guys from going away. And you like think that they're going to get away. They're in the van. They're starting to drive away. And then they casually are having a conversation about being superheroes and who's going to pick up, the kids.
Who's going to go get the kids from soccer.
And so like all of these like tiny things that really don't have to be anything to do with the situation. And so they're casually having a conversation while stopping the van and picking up the van and dumping out the bad guys from it. Very funny. If you don't watch this movie, I would say at least watch that first scene. It's definitely worth it.
It's great. And it's also like a very kind of feminist conversation too, because it's like the mom works and she's the first one to arrive at this bank heist. And she's like, I was in a meeting. You knew I had a meeting. Why am I the first one here? Why am I always like carrying the emotional labor kind of conversation? And I just thought it was so like enlightened for a movie set in 2000 to be having that kind of conversation. And he was like, you're right. I'm wrong. Like immediately. He was on
they have
the
a very
page.
healthy marriage.
Their whole family, very healthy family dynamic.
Very healthy family dynamic.
They communicate, like that's why it's sort of interesting. And we'll get to this more later, but like when Scott kind of does what he does, because they're not asking him to lie to them. Like they're not asking him, like obviously they'd be excited if he has superpowers, but like they're not making it a conditional thing that they'll like only love him or only be proud of him if he has powers. Like they have a very good parenting style, which brings me to another couple lines I liked. No crime fighting until you've done your homework, young man. And no laser vision without supervision.
That's probably what my mom would tell me if I had laser vision as a kid.
Right. And then another one, flying is a privilege, not a right. And then this one's again kind of contextual, but like when they're like looking for Scott when they think he's like flown off, and they're like, the dad's like, oh, helicopter, oh, eagle, oh, UFO. I just thought that was so funny.
There's so many cute little lines in this.
Yeah. And then the last one, when they see mom's motorcycle, when Randy sees mom's motorcycle, he goes, oh, geez, my mom drives a hatchback. So those are my favorites. I mean, there were a lot of good lines and a lot of like fun interactions that weren't like lines that you would write down, but just like fun exchanges and stuff. It was a well-written movie. I'm not surprised that this Dan Berenson character has been tapped to write a lot of these TV movies.
Yeah, I mean, if he's good at getting in a fun plot, a fun cast, and just a good time in under an hour and a half, then stick to what you know and get those people in your doors.
Yep, totally.
Also, as a complete side note, for anyone who's going to be watching our TikToks later when Val puts us up, I'm recording from my office today.
Yeah, and I'm wearing one of our t-shirts.
Yay, science is the real magic. And I'm not, but I did wear it yesterday and my other one's in the laundry. So this is a reminder to buy some D-Commentaries merch. Shout out to friend of the pod, Zach Roberts, who has purchased multiple merches.
Mhm.
We love you, Zach. Can't wait to see you sporting it on the streets of Orlando, Florida.
Yeah, send us a picture or tag us in a picture of you wearing your apparel.
Yep.
wanna see you.
This will come out after I see Zach, but I'm actually seeing Zach this upcoming weekend because I am taking a trip to Orlando, Florida. So we will be modeling our merch together.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome. Any other like thoughts before we go to Spoiler City? I mean, I noticed, so like I said before, I felt like this whole idea of like kids getting like mind controlled felt very much like social media to me.
Yeah.
Like how they just became drones. Like that's how I am when I look at TikTok, and I'm not even a teenager. And so I
Yeah.
can't even imagine. And then the only other thing was, you might be too young for this, Allie, but this environmental educational sort of video game thing. Do you remember when Encarta Encyclopedia had a video game as part of their like CD-ROM that you got when you got their encyclopedia? And it was kind of like
This looks familiar.
yeah, it was like obviously it wasn't a first person shooter because there's a shooting, but like it was like a first person perspective game where you like walk through and like go to do different tasks or whatever. And it was the only video game that was on the computers in the library at my elementary school. So I used to play it all the time.
That's so funny.
It just reminded me of that. They were like, is this a video game? And I was like, this is exactly what Encarta Encyclopedia was.
Yeah, the only other things before we get into Spoiler City were the coolest part about this movie was joining into the world that is living with superheroes.
Mhm.
And it feels, like we said, a little bit more campy than it does joining a Marvel movie. So Marvel makes it seem like really cool action film, this, that. But this makes it feel so real life, where you're just going to go to the grocery store and then Bronze Eagle's just going to walk by it and you're like, hey, what's up?
Yep.
You know, it just made it feel so much more real than the CGI that is, you know, a Marvel movie. I'm not shitting on Marvel movies, but I kind of am.
We know what you think of Marvel movies.
I've seen all 3 Thors. I don't know. I think it's a fun watch.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's fun. It's fun. That's exactly what it is. It's fun. Shall we strip down to our costumes and
Only wear a cape, no tops.
only if it's a training cape.
Yeah, training cape.
And now it's time for a word from one of our sponsors. Don't want to talk about the weather or the pandemic? Us either. No Wrong Answers is a conversation card game where you can ask life's least pressing and most important questions. Why talk about vaccination rates when you can debate questions like which cereal mascot would be the best kisser? No Wrong Answers was created by comedians and self-proclaimed world's best small talkers, and it's great for everything from dinner parties to Zoom happy hours. And since all the prompts are rated PG-ish, it's even good for classrooms. We can't believe it either, but the holidays are coming up. And you know what makes a great gift? No Wrong Answers. Save yourself from all those awkward conversations and just throw these cards down instead. For every purchase, a portion of the proceeds go to the Greater Chicago Food Depository. So not only will you have a great time, but you'll also feel good playing this game. Listeners of the Trident Network can use the code TRIDENT for 10% off their purchase. Just go to NoWrongAnswersGame.com and use Trident at checkout for 10% off your purchase. No Wrong Answers. Fun talk, not small talk.
We are going to fly right to Spoiler City. You heard it here, folks. Tops are off. We're flying. We're soaring.
Flying.
That's it, because we haven't gotten that movie yet. Welcome to Spoiler City. We're going to tell you the entire plot of the movie kind of as fast as we can, but we're going to try to hit as many details as possible. Once again, I've started taking more detailed notes, so I sound much smarter than I have in the past. Val's here to correct everything that I don't mention or that I miscorrectly mention, because she is my rock, my shield, my cape, and she pays more attention than I do. All right, this is the plotline of Up and Away. Awesome. And so we open up to this very ominous music. So it kind of starts off a little spooky. I wrote down starts incredibly ominously. So it starts off with this spooky music, and we see this logo of an earth turning and it says Earth Changers, or what is it, Val? I did not write down the name of the
I
thing.
actually can't remember either. Hold
Okay.
on.
Earth Protectors.
Earth Protectors, yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Very
I did write it
original
down.
name.
I did write it down, just not in the first line. So we have Earth Protectors, and we hear this voiceover kind of these people finally change the world, and nobody's going to be able to do anything about it. So then that's very quick, right as we get into Lights Up on Scott, who is, getting ready for school, playing soccer in his room. His dad comes in, is talking about how he's got a birthday in 4 days, and in 4 days he's turning 14. So we have another 13-year-old. And they're kind of just going about their morning. Everything seems super normal right now. We're not really learning too much yet. The only thing is that they're really excited for 4 days until his birthday, which I don't think a single birthday of mine I've been excited 4 days before. So we're like, okay, something's up. And then Randy comes in, Scott's best friend, and he brings in a zucchini bread wrapped in aluminum foil, and everyone gets really uncomfortable. And we're like, okay. And so then they take it out into the yard. They bury it in the yard. They have a special trash can buried in the yard to put all of the aluminum foil in, because we will later find out, this is spoiler city, so I don't mind spoiling it for you now, is that aluminum foil is basically the kryptonite of this family. I'm not sure about other superheroes, but in this family, their kryptonite is aluminum foil.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we kind of meet Scott's crush love interest, Amy Rosen. They are in the driveway. They were kind of giving each other some, tiffs and bits. And then Amy's mom says something about how she might have a crush on him, and she gets mad at her mom for saying something. Then we cut. So we have learned about our core people. So we have mom, dad, Scott, Randy, Amy Rosen, Amy's mom, and then we have the other siblings, Molly and Adam. And perfect. So we do know at this point that mom, dad, everyone is superpowers, and Scott does not have them, but you get them by your 14th birthday, which is why we're all very excited for his 14th birthday, because then he will have his superpowers. We cut back to our Earth Protectors, and Kevin Connolly is there, and he's talking about Earth Protectors and how they have donated computers to the 8th graders at school. So basically, they're trying to brainwash kids into recycling, is what we think at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Recycling, taking care of the Earth. They're Earth Protectors. And he is at the school talking to all the kids, saying, we're really excited for you to this. This is what you're going to do with your computer. Then after school, he gets in the van to go back to Earth Protectors, and he litters, and we find out that he's actually the villain. He's the bad guy. So then they go directly to the local bank to brainwash the adults, because that's basically what these computers are doing. They're there to brainwash people. So he brainwashes the adults, the clerks at the bank, to give them money. Someone sneezes and the adults snap out of it, and then they realize that there's a robbery at the bank. Scott's dad, his name is Jim.
Yeah.
Jim is driving the kids to soccer because he is a cool stay-at-home dad, and we love Smash the Patriarchy. He is driving the kids and gets a call that there's something going on, and he's like, and so they say, oh, isn't the car breaking down? And he's like, yeah, the car's breaking down. And the Scott's friends are like, okay, this is weird, but we'll walk the rest of the way. So then Jim gets out of the car, changes into a superhero costume. That's the first time we see Bronze Eagle. And we get to the bank, and dad gets there, and mom was already there, and she was, fighting the bad guys, trying to get them away. This is where we were talking about earlier about the scene where they're fighting about normal things while defeating the bad guys. Then they catch the bad guys except for Kevin Connolly and one of the other people. So he kind of gets away from it. We cut to at home. Adam, the older brother, and dad are talking about how Scott might be normal. Normal is the term. So you're either like a superhero and you have superpowers, or you're normal.
Is anyone normal?
No. Then we cut to, there's a lot of cuts in between both plot lines here, kind of. But we learned that you can't brainwash adults as well as you can brainwash kids, and that's not what it's really designed for. So that's why it didn't work. And then when someone sneezed at the bank, they kind of snapped out of it. It basically just seems like it was created to get kids to recycle and treat the earth better. So start them young because you can't do it when they're older is basically why this was created. Then mom and dad are in the kitchen talking about how they're really worried on his 14th birthday that he won't develop powers. And Scott overhears them talking about this, about how nervous they are that he's getting so close and people don't get powers after their 14th birthday. So they are starting to really worry. He undrills the door and pushes through it to make it seem like he does have powers. And so he heard this. He didn't want to disappoint his parents. It wasn't so much that he was sad he wouldn't have powers. And it wasn't even like, I don't want to be like the black sheep of the family. It was just, I don't want to make my parents sad that I am not like them. So then the grandparents come over. That's where we meet Grandpa and Grandma, and he starts faking the powers during dinner. And so he throws the soccer ball through the tree and they think he's flying, and he, undrilled the door, crashed through it, super strength, things like that. And Grandpa realizes that he's faking. They have a conversation and he says, don't tell anyone. Like, I don't want anyone to know. And Grandpa agrees to it, which is a good plot line, but Grandpa in real life probably wouldn't agree to it.
No.
So dad comes in on Scott while he's working on his computer. So at school, every kid was given a CD and they had to do homework when they got home. So dad kind of realized that Scott was really mesmerized by what was happening on the computer screen. So we actually see it work on Scott. And the next day we get to school and every kid who did their homework by watching this video is wearing blue. And the only kids that didn't do their homework, and this is only the 8th graders, are wearing red. So I think it's really funny that that many children did their homework, because that would not have happened in my school.
That's so funny. I definitely think it would have happened in my school.
Really?
Yeah.
There were only 2 kids I saw that were wearing red, and I was like, there's no way. And I probably would have been one of them. I was like, we'll do that tomorrow.
That's so funny. I didn't even think about that. I always did my homework, so it didn't even occur to me.
It's crazy. And then someone was not bullying Scott. I don't know how he got thrown something. He got something thrown at him, which was a ball of aluminum foil. And his brother was there and he went to catch it instead of Scott and his brother. We can then see what happens when they touch aluminum foil and they lose their powers. I think he said something about the molecules or the atoms, or
it messes with their molecular structure is what
molecular structure. I love that. Science is the real magic. So the parents then found out that something was happening in the town. I think they were watching a news story and they were like, okay, we've got to do something about this because someone is mesmerizing things. We don't know how it's happening. So they go to the bank to try to look in the computer to see what mesmerized them. And Adam is an electro guy and he fries the computer. So they end up not realizing it, but they tell everyone that they know so that they can buy them some time.
I would also like to point out that he zaps the monitor, which has nothing to do with the computer.
Nothing to do with the hard drive. Yeah. And then we cut to Earth Protectors again, and they say everything's ready to go, but we really don't know what still. And so there's just a lot of Earth Protector information that getting pushed back. And I actually think that helps with the suspense. With them being really vague about it, you're like, what are they doing? And then we get to his birthday. And so it's his 14th birthday. It's happening. And he still doesn't have his powers. But, he wants everyone to think he does. And you get a special name on your birthday. And they took one name from each of them. It was Bronze Eagle. And what's mom's name?
Warrior Woman.
So then Scott's superhero name is Warrior Eagle. So super cute. That's where we have our pull quote from the very beginning, our cold open, where he does the oath and he hesitates because he's like, I don't have superpowers and I'm agreeing to this. And then we see a slew of fun characters in the house for the birthday party. Then we go back to Earth Protectors. Man, it is very back and forth in this movie. Go back to Earth Protectors where they're saying you need to slip this tracking device onto Bronze Eagle because now they know that they're being tracked, that they're
onto them. Yeah.
Yeah, they're onto them. And so they kind of set up a thing to capture the superheroes because if the superheroes are gone, then they can follow through with their plan of hypnotizing all of these children.
But then he blows up the building. This is the part I didn't understand.
Oh, no. Okay. So they blow up the building so that they could get Bronze Eagle there to put a tracker on him.
Oh.
And so woman is trapped in buildings so they can put a tracker on him. And then once the tracker goes back to his lair, they'll find out where he lives and then they can destroy where he lives.
But he just didn't tell her about the fact that he was going to blow her up.
No, he did. I think she knew. I think she agreed to it, even though she didn't really know what she's agreeing to.
Okay. She didn't act like she knew it was about to happen. Okay.
Yeah, I think she did.
Okay. I must have
I
just
think
missed
she did.
something there.
That was like the ploy to like get them, but
that makes sense. Yeah. I just didn't know whether she understood that that's what was going to happen. Also, that tracker never came back. She didn't do anything.
No, she ended up not putting the tracker on because Warrior Eagle Scott showed up instead because they were like, woman in burning building. Here you go. Here's your first trial and error. And so he goes and he tries to save her and it ends up just not being good. He uses a fire hose and Bronze Eagle ends up saving them. And the worst part about it is Scott's mask falls off. Mm-hmm. So all of this kind of would have been foolproof even if the tracker had been put on, but ended up not even getting that because his mask fell off. Then Earth Protectors people decide to use the mask to figure out who Scott is. And then somehow they have the faces of all of the 8th graders or all of the children in the world, who knows. And they can see that the mask fits over his face and they find out who he is and then realize that it's his family. Then they call Scott into the office and they say, hey, you won this really cool thing for Earth Protectors because you're so cool. And then Kevin Connolly hypnotizes him and for 2 hours asks him questions about his parents. And, oh no, now the bad guys know
how to beat them.
And Scott noticed when he was walking out that Nina, the woman who he tried to save in the fire, was outside of school getting in an Earth Protector's van. So he's kind of starting to put things together. And he's on his way out. And the teacher, who is really cool, we love her, was giving everyone new CDs for the day because they got new one every day. How do they get this amount of CDs? I don't know.
That's where their funding is going.
Right. That's where the money from their parents' purses are going. And Scott had one with like a red thing on it. And she said, this one's special for you. But he runs into his crush, Amy, and they have a little chat. And they switch.
Like literally runs into her.
Crashes
into her.
Actually falls over. And then they switch the CDs so that Amy ends up with the one that was meant for Scott. So then Amy's mom, because, this is the one. This is the CD you're supposed to do your homework with your parents tonight. And Amy's mom ends up watching it and gets hypnotized and goes to rob the bank. Then the parents of Scott see a regular one about composting and they're like, what are you showing us? After we see after Amy's mom is hypnotized and goes and robs the bank, she walks into the evil villain lair with Kevin Connolly and Nina. And then this is where Nina starts to be like, okay, what are you doing? Mostly because Kevin Connolly is wearing tiny sunglasses and a blazer now that he looks like a villain that would be in if villains from the TV show Numbers. Or like The Matrix or something. He looks so 2000s villain. And then he ends up saying that he is trying to take over the minds of everyone because he wants to control everyone, right?
He's trying to control the superheroes so that he can bend them to his will. And they'll basically just do whatever he wants. Yeah. So he's trying to specifically control them because that's what he was trying to do when Amy's mom accidentally got the message instead, was he was trying to have them rob a bank for him,
right, so that they would come to the lair instead. Mm-hmm. So then Scott calls Grandpa and is chatting and he's like, hey, I need help. And they say maybe we owe Scott an apology. And then I literally wrote everything down, but I didn't write down how they end up at the factory.
I actually can't remember either. I think they just go because they realize what's going on. I think they just finally put two and two together.
They said to Amy, your mom's robbed a bank or whatever, and then they're trying to find her. Yeah. I don't know how they get there. I forgot.
I also forgot, but then they get there and then they trap them.
Somehow they get there and they get trapped in a cage of aluminum foil.
It's very Tom and Jerry, his mask is hanging from the ceiling and then all of a sudden a cage falls down on them.
It's like the game Mousetrap.
Yeah.
With the cage where it's so plastic and so basic. It's literally what they walk into in an aluminum foil. So then this is where Nina doesn't understand what's happening. She's like, why are you capturing these superheroes? I'm just trying to have kids recycle. And then Kevin yells at Nina and Scott then goes to get his friends to help. So he recruits Randy, the Randinator, and Amy. And Nina says, I thought you shared the same dream. And I was like, there were so many signs that this man didn't care. Oh, she said all the signs that he didn't care about recycling, about how he like
Oh, yeah.
you used a styrofoam cup and
Yeah,
things like
and
that.
he like had a leather belt and all sorts of stuff.
And she said, you don't need superpowers to help people. And I think he thinks the opposite. So then I wrote, hijinks ensue to defeat adults and save parents. There's 3 minutes to save them from the mines belonging to Earth Progress. So they have 3 minutes. You only got 3 minutes to save the world.
And this is like where they keep like saying the same thing in different ways, like the synapse scramble, the brain bumble or whatever. Like they literally just keeps, this computer program just keeps listing.
So stupid. A minor plot line that I didn't mention that is now important is Amy and Scott throughout the entire thing were not fighting, but bickering at each other about who was going to be team captain of the soccer team.
Yes.
So Amy was saying how he had been late to soccer practice and he didn't pass it because blah, blah, blah. He was ball hog. And so then throughout all of that, like bickering to each other, we finally get to the point where he has to make a goal because the last time he shot, he missed. And she kicks the soccer ball out of her bag. He somehow escapes the arms of the adults. He soccer juggles it. Dribbles. Kicks the soccer ball into one of the cage holes of the aluminum foil cage, knocks over and like blows up one of the computers that's hypnotizing his parents in there. And he saves his parents. Nina apologizes. He wants to ask Amy to the dance in front of his entire family, which is so weird.
She asked
that's right.
him.
That's right. I forgot about that.
She forgets because they mind wipe her.
So she asked him in front of his whole family, which I thought was really awkward, where they're just like, hey, and then his parents are like, I just thought it was really awkward the way they did that. Like, have it in the corner or something. And then they make her forget, and every single person they like, they just like touch them and they kind of like melt and forget everything that happened.
It's one of Adam's powers that he can like wipe people's memories.
They all have a lot. Like,
yeah, even Molly
has like so many.
Yeah.
But then they don't make Randy forget his powers. They said it would be nice for him to have a friend, and so his best friend Randy doesn't get to forget kind of what happened, which was such a cute moment.
Yeah.
And they really then finally Grandpa showed up. I mean, you remember 5 minutes ago when I mentioned that he went to Grandpa, finally showed up, which we then see. He was a very funny character. He was like, I should have just taken the bus and I would have gotten here faster than flying. It's very funny. Then we get back to school. Amy doesn't remember a thing, so she doesn't remember being asking him to the dance. And we're at soccer and they're voting on team captain, and Scott ends up voting for Amy, even though she voted for Scott, and she ended up winning. And
no, they tied.
Or they tied, right? Oh, that's right. That's right.
Basically, it was in his hands. He could have either made himself captain or made them both captain, and he chose to make them both captain.
Yeah, and then they play soccer, and he is totally okay with not having superpowers, and he never gets them. And I think that's beautiful, and I think that's a great way for it to end, because I think if he had gotten them, it would have been a little predictable. Yeah. So I like that he didn't get them, and
agreed.
That's Spoiler City.
That's beautiful. Well done, Al.
Thank you. My throat's starting to hurt.
Uh-oh.
Talking too much.
So much information.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, like, this movie, it was funny because I was like, there has to be such an obvious, like, metaphor for something here. Which obviously we'll talk about a little bit more in Bingo. But, like, I don't necessarily think there is, like, a metaphor exactly. I think it's just, like, a really good lesson. Like, you don't have to... You don't, like, multiple people say you don't need powers to do the right thing or to be a hero. Like, I don't know, just like basically your choices define you more than what you're born with. Yeah. Which I think is like a good lesson. It's a nice story. I thought it was great. Yeah. And Kevin Connolly is a great villain. Yeah, and I just love, like, his outfits through this whole movie were so funny to me. So 2000s. Oh my God, like just so many huge cargo pants and like gigantic open button down shirt, like loud patterns, like just wild outfits the whole time. It was great. It was so great. It was awesome.
The costumes, even with the superheroes, really great.
Yeah, I liked how they were like practical. Like they were something that like you would make at home,
Yeah.
which I think makes sense because in this world, they're making their own uniform.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's part of the job. I thought that was really funny or cool. Another thing that I thought was so interesting and definitely would not be allowed today is all the mentions of the superheroes by name. So all of those characters are now literally copyrighted. Like they're owned by Disney. So like they would be able to.
Well, not DC. So like Superman wouldn't.
Right. Like they wouldn't be able to even mention Superman or Green Hornet or Batman. I don't think they mentioned Batman. But
Spider-Man and Mary Jane. And then there was one other one.
Right. Like so Spider-Man and Mary Jane, like basically this just preceded the owner, like the popularity of these characters in such a way where everyone bought them, like where they bought the characters. So like now a movie has to like pay for the right to do that. So there's absolutely no chance that a TV movie would mention any
That's
character
crazy
by name like that. Yeah. Is it time for bingo?
It is. Let's get to that farm.
Oh, the farm. Let's
the
fly
bingo
there.
farm.
Let's fly there. Up and away.
Yay. Cool. You want to go ahead and start today?
Sure. One hit wonder song. I don't think so. There was a song playing during his party very briefly, but it sounded like an oldie. Like it didn't sound like like a modern song. So I don't think. Also, on this subject of one hit wonders, I found a bunch of like lists. So like there were these albums that came out that were like, here are all the singles that dropped in these DCOMs.
Whoa.
And so there's like one from like the earliest ones, like starting with Under Wraps all the way through Horse Sense. And then there's ones that are like later, like
cool.
Cheetah Girls and
Thanks
stuff.
to whoever did that, so we don't have to.
I know. Well, they literally made albums. Like they literally sold albums.
Oh my God.
And the first one that has like all the ones up and basically up till where we are now is called Here's Premieres. And Premieres is spelled EARS for Mickey.
I hate it. Wow. Where'd you find that? Spotify or Google?
No, I was just Googling. And
I was just Googling.
There's Wikipedia lists of of these. Because I was trying to see, because like we have a Spotify playlist that I add any songs that are in any of these movies to each as we go through them. And so I was just double checking because I hadn't checked on Horse Sense either. So I was double checking both of them. And because Horse Sense does have a song on this album, it came up and that's how I found it. And then it would like linked to like the other ones that came like later. And this one was called like Volume 1, but there was never a Volume 2.
Okay. Breaking the fourth wall or looking into the camera.
I didn't see anything.
I didn't see anything.
Holiday themed. Nope.
Clunky metaphor.
So like it seems like it should be an obvious metaphor, right? Like some kind of thing about like getting your power. I mean, you could argue like at one point Dad says, I always thought he'd get into the family business. And it kind of made me think about like, if there was like a literal family business and one kid just wasn't good at whatever the thing was, or just didn't have any interest in it and like went off and did their own thing, like how that would affect the family dynamic or whatever. So like, that's probably the closest thing. But like, that's not really what Scott's issue is, like in terms of like what he's sort of working through. What he's sort of working through is like, he thinks that because the whole thing with him being like a ball hog in soccer is like he's trying to like prove something. He's trying, like, it's not the absence of interest in being a superhero. He's trying to prove that he is good enough. Yeah. Right. So like that metaphor kind of doesn't work because of like what he wants or cares about. So I guess like the metaphor is the captainship, like the ball hoggingness and like the way that he behaves about soccer more than anything is like he lets go of that once he realizes that he doesn't need to be the star to be a strong teammate. But I don't know. That's still stretching.
I don't know. I don't think it has one this week.
All right. No clunky. Wow.
No clunky metaphor.
Okay. Parents who just don't get it.
No. I originally didn't mark it.
I was going to say, I don't think we should mark it.
And then I did mark it because of the part where
they don't believe him.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I get that. And I would agree. Like, if you want to mark it, I'm fine with it. But like, they get him. Like, he's lying to them. He's actively lying to them. And they know something's up with him. They just can't quite figure out what it is right away because he is actively deceiving them. But I think of any of the parents that we've seen, they're probably the most...
They're the healthiest.
Yeah, like they're the most aware and like involved parents of any of them.
Yeah, I'm fine. Let's not mark it. I marked it for a reason, but then I'm like, I mean, as a whole, for 90% of the movie, they do get it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Cool non-parent adult. Grandpa.
Steel Condor, baby.
Steel Condor. And Val leading into our next box.
Someone too famous for a TV movie. Steel Condor.
Yeah. Seems like they always go hand in hand.
They always do. Which kind of like it makes sense, right?
It's fun. Cast the fun part as someone who has
better things to do.
Yeah.
Totally.
Competition to resolve central problem.
No.
Not this time.
A montage sequence.
I saw one, but it was like a half.
What was it?
It was when all of them are going home to have their parents watch the CD.
Oh.
I don't know if that counts or not, but I marked it because of that. Because there was no sound, there was no lines, and it was just score.
Okay. That's fine. We can count it.
Sure.
Okay.
Cliche villains.
Yep.
Evil
mastermind.
And they get more and more cliche, truly, as it keeps going.
Clothes or items you owned. I mean, I wore similar looking soccer uniforms.
Let's count it.
Okay. I didn't have like
soccer.
that exact color scheme, but I definitely had like
I was on the blue team. I was on the baby blue team when I was in 5th grade.
Oh, well, there you go. I was always like pink or green. Like I didn't have a lot of blue, but I definitely had like the collared, like thing with the dark shorts and the whole get up.
Yeah. I miss the ease of being a child.
I know. What a good time.
What a great time. Rotten Tomatoes 40 to 60%. Before I tell you, this is not Rotten Tomatoes because there isn't one. So I did the math. I did the math based off of IMDb.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Then it might be higher because like IMDb is different. I'm going to say 60.
You're within 5.
What is it?
56.
Oh, nice. Okay. That feels right. That feels right. Yeah, for sure.
And we get the square.
That's what I was going to guess like 55. And then when you told me the IMDb thing, I was worried it would get higher.
A little bit higher.
Yeah. But that it feels exactly right for this movie. Perfect. Yeah. Happily Ever After. Yes. Gets the girl, gets to be co-captain. His parents are not evil minions.
Yeah. Totally cool with not having superpowers.
Yep. That too.
The next one is Almost Kissing. I saw one moment where they got close, but it wasn't like close. But it was like they wanted to.
Was it at the end before she gets mind wiped?
It was either that or it was one time where Randy came in and interrupted. Maybe it was when they were spying.
Oh.
They were spying in the warehouse.
Were they like having a moment?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I missed that. I trust you.
Cool. We'll mark it.
Okay. Someone who became famous.
I'm arguing Kevin Connolly.
No, yeah, totally.
Okay.
100%.
Cool.
Accounts. Yes. Most people would recognize him.
Yeah. And sure. Entourage, I mean, Entourage would be made completely different now.
Oh, 100%. It's
But
super problematic. But
it was so problematic.
And it was just like of that moment.
Yeah, just things like, oh, they shouldn't say that, but we're just going to laugh it off type thing, like of the 2000s.
Yeah, I mean, literally every show is like that. Friends is like that. Like
Yeah.
so many shows, it's just like, oh God, how many more gay jokes can you put in here?
Yeah.
And also, how many more white people can we cast before we
Oh,
even
God, yeah.
consider casting a person of color?
Yeah. Which is something that we haven't mentioned yet, that this is the first DCOM where a majority of the cast is a person of color.
The leads, yes.
The leads, yes.
Yeah.
And that was
And it was
awesome.
directed by a person of color too, which is great.
Yeah.
I think it was the first time that happened as well.
Yeah, that was really, really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Betraying of one's real friends or values.
Yes.
Yes, because he fakes it.
Yeah, he lies.
Yeah.
He lies to his family. Your childhood crush. No.
No, but now that dad with the mustache. He is hot, cool dad. Friends, if you listen to our episode of Disney Adult with Devin Henderson,
Which is
incredible
coming out
podcast,
tomorrow.
Coming out tomorrow. We talk about my favorite and one of Val's favorites Disney movies, which is Hercules. We talk about our hot dad, cool dad Venn diagram. And I would like to argue that Jim fits in the middle, which is hot, cool dad.
I'm not going to argue that.
Yeah.
He's literally a superhero.
Yeah.
And he's a nice dad. Like,
Nice dad.
which to me makes him
That's where
hotter.
comes the cool. Yeah.
Well, and hot. I think it's hot to be nice.
All right.
We were talking.
We have two different definitions of hot. I love that. Obviously bad special effects or stunts.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
Yep.
there's a bunch.
Yep.
Mostly when Scott is flying with his dad.
Yeah. Well, any flying, because they like painted streaks into the sky, like when Jim flies off, and like at the party with all the different powers being exemplified mostly by people being like less opaque. Like there's a few people who are like see-through to different degrees, which is like a good, easy way to do that. But it was just funny to me that that was like what they were showing. Okay, we've got our famous decomers: Eric Von Denton, Kirsten Storms, Ryan Merriman, Kimberly J. Brown, and Annie Lawrence brother. And we're a big no on that one this week.
Nope. Musical number?
No.
Always would be better with one.
Magic. Yes. And
Yes.
science magic.
Science
Both.
magic and real magic.
Yeah.
Someone says the title of the movie 1 million times.
Yes. Like within the first.
Every
5
time they
minutes.
fly up,
Yep.
up and away.
Yep.
Yep.
Scooby Doo. Yes.
Yeah, they do solve it. Those
Yep.
kids.
They solve it, and it's very Scooby Doo. Like it's literally a bunch of kids running through a warehouse to get the bad guy.
To take those sunglasses off Kevin Conley. The heroes create the problem. I'm saying no this time. Yeah.
No, because they still would have done what they did even if he hadn't have lied. So.
Yeah.
Lead is a fish out of water.
I marked it only because of the part where he is trying to fit in to be a superhero and he is not.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to delete.
I don't think so, because even though he doesn't have powers, he's grown up in this world, right?
Yeah,
so
that's
he's
true.
not like alien to it. He understands everything and is comfortable with it. He's just
Yeah, that's fair.
unfortunate to not manifest his powers.
All right, well, that's our bingo square. And Val, we got one.
We did?
We did, right in the middle.
Holy moly.
BINGO, closer items you owned, Rotten Tomatoes 40 to 60, Happily Ever After, Almost Kissing, and Someone Who Became Famous.
Well, howdy doody.
Howdy doody away. How about them powers? Powers? What powers?
What's the kid's name? Brian or something?
Dylan.
Dylan.
Great. Thanks for playing.
You too.
Thanks.
That was fun.
Yeah. Well, Val, don't worry. We're not done playing. Okay. Because you know what time it is. It's game time.
Game time.
It's time for the game of What Superhero?
Okay.
Val, we're going to have 2 minutes
Okay.
to draw each other as superheroes. And you have to draw on your piece of paper with your colored items, me as a superhero. I will draw you and you have to come up with a name.
Okay. Wait, so I have to draw you as a superhero and give you a name.
A name.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And presumably superpowers.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not a very good drawer.
You don't have to be, but it is going to go on our Instagram. So. All right, here we go. 2 minutes starting now. Okay.
Okay.
I think you're going to hate mine. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay. So Val as a superhero is Captain Camp.
I like my hat.
Captain Camp wears a blue cap. Captain Camp cap.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy it in stores near you. And Captain Cap can breathe underwater and can run really fast.
How did you know that breathing underwater is like a thing? I have recurring dreams that I can breathe underwater.
I read today that Cancers, in terms of horoscope, are psychics. So it's true.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can breathe underwater and you can run really fast on land.
Oh.
Yeah. And then your shirt says in charge. Captain Camp.
Well, I didn't get to do all the detail that I wanted, but you'll get the gist of it.
Okay.
Allie, you are the voice.
Oh my God, I look beautiful.
And you, with just the power of your voice, can persuade anyone to do anything. And your singing voice can lull even the angriest, meanest of monsters into slumber.
Whoa, I'm so cool.
You are so cool.
I love that. Look at us. Cap Camp, the voice.
The voice.
Yay.
That was a fun game, Al.
Thanks. Awesome. Well, any last thoughts about the pod, about the movie, about the everything?
No, just that I always enjoy doing this with you.
You're such a sweet Val. I just love you.
I love you. I love you very, very much.
Love you very, very much.
And you know what we both love as well as each other is we love
the spotlight.
We do. We love the spotlight. We love when people talk about us in nice ways.
In nice ways. Please only nice. I don't have mental strength for mean things.
What we're taking a really roundabout way of saying is that it would mean a lot to us if you would continue to tell your pals about the show. And also, we're going to put another plug in today to please write a review.
Yeah.
If you have a moment, or even just leave us 5 stars if you don't have time to write something, but writing something is definitely super helpful. But either way, on Apple Podcasts, that really, really, really makes a big difference. So basically just sort of telling the old algorithm, the old algorithm that you are a fan will tell it to share us with more people. And, we want to.
Yeah, we want to shout you out. And if you do something cool, like buy our merch or follow Patreon, we'll say your real full name on the pod.
Yes. And we did a big push for Patreon last week, and we got a ton of new Patreon patrons, which was so amazing. Thank you to everybody who gave and continues to give. And as Allie said, if you want to be a Patreon patron, you can, for as little as $3 a month, you can get your old name said through our mouths on this very podcast.
We'll say it. We'll say, we love you. Your name here.
So give us a follow, give us a review, give us your dollars if you have some to spare. But either way, thank you so much for giving us your ears for this episode of D-Commentaries.
We love you.
We love you.
Bye, Val.
Bye, Al. This podcast was produced by me.
And me.
And it was edited by me.
The music was composed by Michael McNally.
You can find us online at thetridentnetwork.com/dcommentaries-pod.
And you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at D-Commentaries.
D-Commentaries is a part of the Trident Network. To learn more about our videos, live shows, and other podcasts, please visit thetridentnetwork.com.
Disney Channel original movies.
Damn it, Allie.